People may agree that a new tool or a new process is really good and useful. They may have attended the training, they understand the message, and they fully intend to act differently. But when the moment arrives, they are not really choosing between the old way of doing things and the new way in a calm, empty room. They're usually very busy and they are usually trying to get something finished. The old way is already there. The new behavior needs to be remembered. It needs to be fitted in their work. So they fall back into that familiar old pattern. A strategy called implementation intention from behavioral science can help in these situations. It sounds a little bit more academic than what it really is, but what it is basically is simply a when-then plan. When this situation happens, I will do this specific action. A vague intention says, I will use AI more, I will do yoga more, or anything else. A when-then plan, for example, says when a new regulatory update comes in, the policy owner will use AI to produce a first-pass comparison against our current policy, identify the sections that may need review, and then check those suggestions against the source regulation before escalating it to the accountable subject matter expert. The second version gives the behavior an unambiguous and clear moment. It has so many details. Peter Galwitzer's work on implementation intention shows that people are more likely to follow through when they can connect a future situation to a specific action. The plan doesn't really make the task easier, but it reduces the amount of thinking. It reduces the amount of deciding that is needed later. Think about voting. People don't fail to vote because they wake up in the morning and decide democracy is not a good thing. They're just busy. They have school runs. The polling station might be out of their way. So their good intention has to compete with the reality of their life. David Nickerson and Todd Rogers tested a simple version of this. Instead of encouraging people to vote, they asked people to make a plan. When would they vote? Where would they be coming from? What would they be doing beforehand? That prompt helps make the behavior concrete. I should vote becomes I will vote after work before getting home. It forces the person to mentally rehearse that behavior in context. That is why implementation intentions are really relevant to workplace behavior. A lot of organizations do the first part reasonably well. They create the goal. For example, they need people to use a new platform. We need teams to adopt AI responsibly. We need managers to have better performance conversations. The harder part is the second part, translating those goals into a specific action anchored to a moment. Take AI or technology adoption, for example. A lot of adoption work creates good intentions. The launch creates awareness, the training creates that understanding, the skills needed, the leadership message hopefully creates permission, the case studies create relevance. And all of this is important and is needed. But they miss a very small question that can change the whole outcome. When exactly should this new action happen inside the work? Take a policy, risk, or operations team. A weak adoption message for them would be use AI to improve productivity. But nobody knows what to do with that on a busy Tuesday morning. A stronger adoption prompt would be more specific. When a proposal is requested, the account team uses AI to pull the last 3 successful proposals for a similar client profile and draft a first version. Then the account owner rewrites the parts that depend on relationship context that AI doesn't have. Now the behavior has a trigger, it has an owner, a defined AI-supported action, and a quality check. And it has a reason to exist. It helps the team to do things faster and saves their time for better judgment. Another example is manager reinforcement after a learning program. A vague instruction says managers should support transfer. A useful version says, in the first 6 one-to-one meetings after the workshop, ask the employee which one technique they tried, what happened, and what got in the way. That is much harder to misunderstand. This is the same idea Baldwin and Ford were pointing at with training transfer. In workplace learning, the point is not whether someone learns something in the session. The point is whether they can use that thing in the job. Baldwin and Ford described transfer as the generalization and maintenance of learning in the work environment. And it's really important because the work environment is where the vague intentions die. A person leaves a workshop really motivated, very inspired, but then they return to a full inbox, existing habits, unclear expectations, and managers who may not even mention the new behavior ever again. If the program has not answered where exactly should this behavior happen, then the person has to work that out alone. Sometimes they will. We know that often they won't. There's a useful workplace study from Katie Milkman and colleagues that makes this point really nicely. Employees had access to flu shot clinics at work, and all of them received this message, this reminder listing clinic times and locations. Some employees were also prompted to write down the date they planned to attend. Others were prompted to write down the date and the time. Those who wrote down the date alone didn't really change things significantly. But writing down the date and the time showed a clear, meaningful increase in vaccination rates compared to the rest of the people. The prompt didn't change people's motivation or awareness. It made the behavior less abstract. It helps people move from, I should probably do it, to I will do it at this specific time. It helped people attach that behavior to a future moment. So here is the practical takeaway for leaders in L&D, HR, enablement, or transformation. Translate goals into when-then behaviors and ask these questions. First, what is the exact behavior? What will someone actually need to do? Second, when should it happen? After which trigger, before which meeting, during which review? And third, what prompts will make it visible at that moment? If the behavior relies on someone remembering something from 3 weeks ago, I would say don't keep your hopes too high that it will happen. Implementation intentions, of course, will not fix poor tools or weak leadership, bad incentives, or a process that makes the new behavior harder than the old one. And that caveat matters. But when the behavior is worthwhile and the main problem is follow through, this gives you a sharper design move. If you cannot write the behavior as a when-then statement, it's probably still too vague. When you, for example, receive a customer complaint, record the outcome in the new platform, in the new system, before closing the email. When you prepare policy updates, use AI to compare versions, then manually review the risk-sensitive sections. When a team member completes training, discuss one live task where they will apply it this week. The prompt doesn't really need to be complicated. It just has to appear where the behavior is supposed to happen. When it is clear and specific, people won't just agree with a change. They will actually do it differently.